All right, let's get started here. I'm going to go through a bit of last week's lesson as a review. We were talking about the perfect tense primarily. You'll remember we talked about the aorist as essentially a simple past in Greek. There are some exceptions, but about 85% of the time, aorist functions as a past in Koine Greek. The present, which can have various nuances, but it deals with present time, right? So there's a durative nuance, like it's something I continue to do, I do continually, I always do. It's sometimes it is iterative, but it deals with present time, not past time, and not future time. And then the perfect describes an action which typically happens in the past and has a durable result in the present. And I made a slight, I brought in some slight nuance to say that the aspect is important to recognize here, that it's not primarily something that happened in the past, it's primarily something that's a reality in the present, and it involves some development. Now that development typically is in past time, right? But the emphasis is on something which is settled. The result is considered to have reached its final state. Now, forming the perfect, we saw that the typical way that this is done, when we look at the active in the Koine, is with what we call reduplication. So there's the capita tense formative. So you remember when you see a kappa after the stem, what are you thinking? Perfect, right? So that's your giveaway. Now this is the active voice, right? So it's subject, verb, object, right? We're talking about a subject that is acting on something or someone, or could be intransitive, but it's an active voice. And so we have we talk about the reduplication of the first letter, but then there's also the epsilon, right? And then you can see here the stem of the verb, which is lambda, upsilon, the tense formative. And then technically the alpha, we said, is actually part of this this complex, right? So it's not actually, you can think of it as really part of the fully formed perfect. And Leluca then has, technically no first person singular, but it's convenient to think of the alpha there. At least, it's a signal to you that this is the first person singular for the perfect of luo, right? So I release, I destroy, and so the perfect active endings, we noted, match those of the first aorist. The exception is the third person plural. So it's lelucasin. It's not, if this was this might be a little interesting even in review here. If we were to cover up this duplicative form here, and we had simply the augment, the tense augment here, then we have epsilon. And if it was elucason alpha, nu, then we'd be dealing with an aorist. But here, because we have reduplication, because we have, if it had been eluason, then we know we have an aorist, right? But if it's, if we see here the reduplication, we see the kappa tense formative here, and then we see this third person plural, which is a little bit different from the aorist, right? So really quickly all together, we'll walk through it because there's so much we went through last time. Let's start with this, like the perfect active indicative of luo, starting with the first person singular. Repeat after me, leluca. This perfect active indicative, second person, lelukas. Perfect active indicative, third person singular, leluken. With the movable nu. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. And then moving on to the first person plural, lelukamen. Lelukamen. Perfect active indicative, first person plural. First person. Now second person, perfect active indicative, lelukate. And the third person plural, perfect active indicative, lelukasin. Also the movable nu, right? So for the perfect in the active, you have movable nu in both the third person singular and third person plural. The typical translation would be using an English auxiliary verb or helping verb here. I have loosed. So that signifies that it's typically that it's something that happened in the past, but also has some present result. Oops. And then there's also the middle and passive paradigm. So we looked at the active. Now we'll look at the middle and passive. The first person singular, let's say it all together. Lelumai. All together, lelumai. Second person singular, lelusai. Third person singular, lelutai. Okay, perfect. Middle or passive indicative, first person plural, lelumete. Perfect. Passive or perfect middle indicative, second person plural, leluste. And third person plural, leluntai. Leluntai. Yeah, that's correct. All right. Now notice that there's no kappa to tense formative in the middle or passive, right? No kappa. So you just have to look at the reduplication here, lambda, lambda, right? And now you see that, and this is another clue here. Remember that in middle forms for the present active indicative, remember for luo, it would be, try to cover this up here, would be luomai, right? With a omicron, mu, alpha, iota, luomai, that would be, I am loosed, something like that. I am destroyed. Here we see that there's no omicron between the tense stem here, the last here letter, which happens to be upsilon, and then the personal ending, right? So that's another clue we have. All right. So lelumai, lelusai, lelutai, lelumete, leluste, leluntai. Okay. Reduplication is probably your closest friend to helping you out to identify the perfect, because it happens both with the active and with the middle and passive. All right. Now there's a few wrinkles and irregular forms. So vowel initial verbs. So agapao. Now this agapao, I love. This is the lexical form. If you were to actually see this written, it would be agapo with the circumflex over it, right? I love, present tense, or I am loving. And we see the augment comes in, no reduplication, right? No reduplication, but the augment comes in, alpha plus epsilon shifts to eta. Alpha plus epsilon shifts to eta. Okay, you still see the tense formative kappa, so it's agapeka. So everybody together, agapeka. All right, so that would be the first person present active indicative of agapao. Oh, sorry, did I say present? Perfect. Perfect active indicative. Yeah, so agapeka. And in the initial vowel lengthens, but you still have the kappa formative here. Now, this is where the difference between, in this case, the perfect and the aorist is a single letter. Because if this was agapesa with a sigma in there, then we would be dealing with an aorist, right? Okay, so if you have a verb that begins with what we call aspirants, so these are consonants whose pronunciation requires a puff of air. Ta, fa, or pa, and ka, and pronounced in the back of the mouth. Then they are reduced to their unaspirated or non-aspirated counterpart here. So terapeuo, I heal. And then you can see this is actually reduplication, but instead of ta, it's ta. It's a different sound. We don't do this in English. We don't do this in English at the beginning of a word, right? Only at the end, like top. Top has the aspiration, but pot does not. Top, pot. Say it yourself and you can see the difference. It's even hard, isn't it? You know, if you're not, because we don't, it's a phonological rule in English. Every initial T sound is aspirated. Okay. But this is non-aspirated, so the tetere, in this case, teterapeumai, teterapeumai, yeah, teterapeumai. Okay. All right. So I, in this case, because this is passive here, right? Or passive or middle, and here we have the reduplication, no kappa, formative. So I am healed. Okay. All right. And then there's a few others too. There's compound verbs. So apoluo, I release, I destroy. It can have that intensifying effect in some instances, or it could mean to send away. You know, to divorce, I think, is even one of the glosses of apoluo. And in the first person, so perfect, middle passive indicative, apolessusai. Okay, and here you see the reduplication is after the prefix. So apo, and then lambda, epsilon, lambda, right? So you see the two lambdas, there's the reduplication, but it happens after the prefixed preposition. Apo, away, right? Apo, away. Luo, to destroy, right? So apolelusai. And there's a few others that are irregular. So gagona, and that's from genomai, I become, right? So you just need to, again, you can see some indications of the passive. What do you see here, right? The two gammas, right? In fact, actually, when you, we saw that's actually not the case. So, well, you know, kind of an aside, that's actually not reduplication, but practically speaking, you can see the two gammas, right? So what is that? So it's not leading you astray. It's actually leading you to the right conclusion, which is that the tense that we're dealing with here is the perfect, right? So there's a stem change, ginomai, to gegona, right? So I have become, right? And then there's pepoita from peitho, which is, you know, I trust or I obey. And then in this gloss, we would have, you know, I have trusted. And you can see here again, indicators of the perfective tense, which here is well, one of the perfective tenses is the perfect in Greek, which is the fact that you have a P and a P here, right? So pepoita, right? All right. And then eleluta from erchomai, right? So I have come, elepa, gegrapa, eureka. So there's only a few of these, and you will you'll note them. You know, it's just one of those things you'll just commit to memory as time goes on. Okay.
Before moving on to the new stuff,
Mm-hmm.
can you just briefly give us a review of the difference between the perfect and the pluperfect?
All right. Yeah, I didn't really say much about the pluperfect. So, Pluperfect is exceptionally rare in the New Testament. I think that there's a total of 86 occurrences, something like that. 80, 90, 100, a little over 100, something like that. I think it's 86 total. And the difference is something, again, it's one of perspective, but it's something that began in the past, but found its completed result in the past. So, for example, in English, if you could say, I have come, right? So I came in the past, I'm here now. Or I had come, right? I had come. So that's even more remote into the past and suggests that the completion of that action was sometime in the past also, right?
So Romans 5:5, would that be perfect or pluperfect?
I would have to look, unless you can quote that in the Greek
love
for
of
me.
God has been shed abroad in your heart by the Holy Spirit.
If I remember right, it's a perfect, but I would have to take a look. In fact, actually, we can look at that together. Why not, right?
Why not? Because it sounds like something that would be perfected in the past, but with ongoing results.
Okay, now I'm glad you brought this up. I want to, because this is a good teaching point. All of these categories that we have described around tense, you should really look at them as guideposts. You're going to find individual instances that are difficult to categorize. Remember that even if you understand, and you work within the conceptual framework that we've given you, for instance, perfect, start in the past, has a present result, right? Future, something in the future. There are subtle differences in the aspect, right? Like with the aorist, for instance, oftentimes it's something that happened in the past, but there's a few cases in which the aorist doesn't describe something that happened in the past. It describes something in the present. So let's take a look together at Romans 5:5. I'm glad you brought that up, but just keep that in mind as you're interpreting, that you have to be careful about resting your entire interpretation simply on a tense in the Greek, right? What you would need to do, and this would be more productive to answer a question like you just asked, would be to do a synchronic study, right? So you're looking, ideally, you start with all the different instances of that particular verb in the New Testament, and you would study each of the uses, and you would try to draw conclusions based on that study, based on the study of perhaps, if it's not very well tested, extra biblical corpora, right, from the Koine period, perhaps secular literature, perhaps the Septuagint, and then of course you're also looking at the lexica, and they're providing historical background, linguistic background for you. Now, when we come to Romans 5,
They actually used it as an example as the perfect last week. I wanted to touch on it, but I didn't get a chance.
Okay. Yeah, I remember it being perfect. Let's take a look here. I'm actually going to open it up, and then let me see, since we're in the middle of the class, if
it's just a really cool version.
I can flip over to that screen. Let's see if it'll allow me to do it. I have so many windows open, I just have to find the right one. Okay. You're either going to see, this is so small, that's always written here. You're either going to see some code, you're either going to see some computer code, or you're going to see logos in a second here. Yeah, it's logos, not computer code.
I see computer code.
Well, it might look like computer code. All right. And then you have this really funky watermark that they put in logos here, which is like it's like a tombstone. I think it actually says like rest in peace. You see that?
Yeah, but it's just on
So
like
odd.
one side.
Yeah.
And some of it
Shows up sometimes in some of the resources and logos.
That's-
Okay.
Why is there a tombstone?
I don't know. I think it's just a watermark so that people don't reproduce the work. But now there's all sorts of tools out there that can easily remove those watermarks. Okay. So hopefully you can see, you're seeing what I'm seeing.
I think so.
All right. So hey de el pis. El pis, I can't remember if that was part of your vocabulary yet. I don't think so. That means hope, right? El pis.
A piece?
El pis.
A piece?
Hey el pis.
Oh, that's a L, so L piece.
And you might notice that what we're dealing with here, not that you need to remember or articulate the category, but this is the sort of like a third state of nouns. Remember, we looked at like first declension and second declension. This has to be a third declension, feminine, right? Because we could see the article right here.
So this is like hope in the imperfect tense? Is that
Well, let's continue one step at a time here, right? So first of all, what we want to do, we can identify the noun, which is the subject. When we get into next quarter's course, we're going to be doing a lot more reading, right? Because now you have enough to be able to do some reading. So we have the hope, and then here, remember, this was the post-positive particle, and it's a slight adversative, meaning typically in English, you can translate it as and or but. So here we have but hope. And this is also good because this is a good example to look at right now, because we talked about how Greek nouns are either articular or non-articular, right? Meaning they have an article or they don't, but they're not necessarily definite versus indefinite. Because if this were simply definite, then in English we would say, but the hope. But we don't say that, right? That's not idiomatic in English. We would simply say, but hope, right? So even though there's an article here, it's not a definite article. Should not be translated as a definite article in English. With me so far?
It's just there because de is shy. He doesn't like to go first.
It is, yeah, that's,
The
Greek heavily favors using these constructions where we have an initial noun interrupted by this little adversative or post-positive particle here, which always has to be in second position. There's like very rare exceptions to that, but typically it's going to be in that second position. So far we have but hope, and this is the negative particle, which hopefully you remember means not, right? Omicron epsilon with a smooth breathing mark. And then kaitos hune, hatais hune, and the lexical form is kaitas huno, which is to embarrass or to disappoint or to make ashamed. And you'll notice here that when you look at it, there's no augment, first of all, right? You may notice here that this is, let's say you don't know what this, yeah, very good. Yeah, like if you don't know what this means.
Kata means through, right?
So aishuno by itself also means to make ashamed or embarrassed. But here it's an intensifying prefix here, kata. Sorry, you were saying?
I was saying the prefix kata means through, right?
It typically means with the accusative, it would mean below. Or rather, according to, right? Yeah. So, but again, remember when we said that the prefixes that sometimes they have a intensifying effect, and there's a semantic shift. This is one of the ones where there's a semantic shift, because if you were to literally construe this prefixed verb, it would be ashamed according to, which or that just doesn't, that you can't take it literally that way, right? So there's a semantic shift here and a intensifying effect. So katais hune, and again, there's no augment here, right? So what are we not looking at? Aorist
Aorist
or perfect, exactly. Okay. Also, so this is the part that you do have to know, right? Katais huno is the lexical form. This is the dictionary form. If you know that, then you can see that this is the end of the verbal root here with the noon, right? And then you can see the epsilon epsilon iota. And you will remember that is the third person singular ending, right? So remember luo, lues, lue, right? Mm-hmm. All right, and hoti. So he agape tu teu echechutai and tais cardiais hemon. So I'm going to just go quickly through this so we can get to our lesson. Here, hote does have a causal sense, right? Sometimes it introduces direct speech, so it can be, he said that, but here it means since or because. Since love, although it's articular, it's not definite, because love, and what love? Of God, right? The genitive here, tu teu, echechutai. All right, now this is the verb that we were talking about. It is in fact in the perfect, and the way that we know that is we first identify what the verbal root is, which it happens to be echeho. And so when you look at this, now you can say, okay, I have
Reduplication.
you have
a sort of
okay, so we didn't deal with this in the chapter last time because this is also very rare. It's a phonological variant. Okay, because remember we said that when you look at the reduplication, we only talked about the syllable, right? We talked about, for instance, if it was a lambda, you look for the other lambda.
Yeah.
In this case, if it's a kappa, and you look for the other kappa, because you can't have this sequence of epsilon verb, epsilon vowel, kappa, consonant, epsilon vowel, kappa, consonant, epsilon vowel, consonant. Okay, that's a phonological rule. You don't need to know that. But it just happens that particular sound sequence is not permitted in Greek. Okay, now, so as a result, in some of the other examples you saw, so for instance, our paradigm verb was luo, right? So you saw the lambda and you saw the epsilon, right? And so it was leluka, remember? The perfect active indicative. Okay.
But this still tips us off that it's a perfect because it has a kappa instead of like
that's exactly the point.
C or something.
That's exactly the point, because what we said is look for reduplication of the consonant. Remember we said that, and we didn't go into again, there's some variants, and this is not, I would not call this an irregular verb. It's just a variant, a phonological variant. But you can see here that you have the two kappas together, right? And if you know that and here's the other thing, if you know that the verbal root is echeho, then you know that what you're looking at here is not ek the preposition, right? Which means out of, plus some other root. Okay. So if you know it's echecho, then you can say, okay, reduplication here, you're already thinking perfect, right? And now you can see that because it's a middle passive, there's no kappa infix for the tense formative, but instead you just have a personal ending. This happens to be a vowel shift here because echeo ends with an epsilon, okay, and that epsilon then with the personal ending, it lengthens to that epsilon right there. But what you can see here is the tau, alpha, iota, right? And by now that should be familiar to you as you've been looking at middle passives, right? We've seen this form many times now. All right. So it is in fact, to answer your question, that it is in fact a perfect passive, right? And we know it's passive here because of the context. This could also be middle, but we have the love of God is, okay, it is poured out in our hearts. And tais cardiais, remember cardia was one of your vocabulary items?
The heart.
Yep. And remember here, N, preposition, expectative, means in. Tais, we know is third person feminine plural, right? And cardiais, third person feminine dative plural, right? Remember that? Okay. And then hemon, and I think we did see, this is one of your vocabulary items, but this is the personal possessive, first person plural, so our, and then you can see the omega noon, so that's genitive plural, hemon, okay? Dia pneumatus hagio to dotentos hemin.
Dia, what does that mean? Yeah, and?
Through, in this case.
Through.
Yeah, dia plus the genitive here. By or through. Okay. Hagio to dotentos hemin is given by the Holy Spirit, who is given to us. In fact, we're going to see this expression today, what this is. Okay, essentially substantival. So we'll get into that today. And then here the same first person plural possessive, but in this case now we see the dative plural, so heimin. And so through the Holy Spirit, who is given to us. Accusative here.
What does it mean that the love of God has been shed abroad in our hearts in the perfect tense?
Yeah, that's also good that you brought this up, because remember, like I did take some pains. There's not very many places where I feel like I've had to do this with Merkel, but I think that the idea of the perfective is primarily aspectual, and they've said that, right? From the very beginning, they've said that aspect is primary to the Greek verbal system, the tense system, with the exception of the present tense, which is more about time, right? So here, echechutai, it's shed abroad, but the emphasis is on the perfective nature, the continued result of it, the finality of it, right? Is it something that happened in the past? Yes, right? But that's not primarily what's in view. And that's where it's difficult for us, because we have a temporal verbal system in English where time is at the forefront of and is explicit. And as linguists would say, the English language is marked for time, meaning it's primarily the way that we express the verbal system in English. It's not the way that it was in Greek, although it's implied, right? But it's implied theologically. It's implied theologically because our hope is not does not make a shame, but the love of God is poured out in our hearts by the Holy Spirit, who is given to us, right? And that's the signal because we have the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's been given to us, right? The Holy Spirit is indwelling us, and that's a past event. That's what signals the past time, right? Is the contextual theological nature of Paul's statement. Does that make sense? Not necessarily the perfect by itself, although it can imply that. Perfect in itself is talking about a settled event. It's something about something that has reached its final state. It's reached a settled result. Right? It's a spectral. Okay, very good. And I think that was well worth taking some time to look at.
Hey, it was in relation to the material.
It was really, really good example to bring up. Now let me see if I can drop us back into the other presentation.
Those watermarks really gotta go away. Looks like some kid got a hold of it before they uploaded it.
Yeah. It's a funny choice of watermark.
I'm gonna have to stop sharing for a second because the controls are covered by a banner, and that's just one of the little quirks of, I should say, of Google Meet. So let's do this again here. All right,
I'm gonna take a 2-minute break if that's okay.
we'll take some time.
Or just keep going.
No, yeah, we can take a little break.
Bad choice.
I've never really been keen on those myself. One of my brothers is really into the Monster drinks. When he was in nursing school.
Yeah, that amount of sugar or caffeine would just I couldn't do it. It would probably like lead to some sort of convulsion or something. And I'm not totally like joking. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Caffeine doesn't like hit me that hard to keep me awake most of the time. Once in a great while.
Yeah,
Hit.
yeah.
It's more the act of drinking something than the actual caffeine itself that stimulates.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I can handle like the caffeine with sugar, man.
Yeah. I was looking at maps recently that are. Have you ever looked at the other projection options of maps?
Yeah, besides like a Mercator projection.
Besides the Mercator,
Mhm.
or whatever it is.
All of them have trade-offs.
Yeah.
And some
This one's a little better, it looks like, because Greenland definitely has a more shrunk down
Mhm.
like appearance. But I think it's still not quite the actual size. On a lot of maps, Greenland looks like it's the size of Africa. In reality, it's like this big. How can you put it on Africa? Yeah. The really
So I
weird-
forget the name of this particular. This might be a modified Mercator, or there's several other different projection types. But then unfortunately, sometimes you have the reverse issue, which is that land masses that are closer to the poles actually experience greater distortion,
Right.
which seems to be the case with this one, because even here, Alaska looks very small. Like, so for instance, Alaska would actually be about the size of about 2/3 of the continental US, and I don't think it's really that size on that map.
Yeah, though it is interesting because it is smaller than like what we often picture it on these continents. Like
Mhm.
we put it over Africa or South America, but North America, yeah, it covers like this much of North America.
Yeah, and this one's interesting because it's actually like a hybrid.
Yeah.
Because of Antarctica, and it looks like the Arctic regions also they have a different presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of,
Yeah, this is, I don't know what this is. It's a strange.
yeah. Yeah, like it's interesting. It's kind of a blend.
It doesn't say. But yeah, what's really weird is to see the one that shifts everything to its proper like north-south pole perspective, because these are so much higher than they look in most maps. This one is.
Does it say here what this is? Like
No, I was looking. Elevation depth feet, it says who made it down here.
oh, look at this though.
thing.
Look at the ridge. It has elevation.
Yeah, this is an elevation, a topographical.
Yeah, look at that.
It's got it all across. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
When you see that, then it helps like you
It
can
gives perspective.
yeah, and you understand like what like the weather systems that get jammed up coming from the
Yeah.
south, leading to all the rain and
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, there ain't no way they're going over that, is there?
yeah, and even like planes, like we'll on almost every case
Or-
try to avoid going over.
Or why, storm systems will drop down here, but they aren't gonna come straight across. Almost ever.
Well, they will come straight across, but they're not going to be the same.
Yeah,
Like
like they'll come up from here or cross through this kind of valley here.
yeah, and when they come over the Rockies, it was like a
Everything
lot of
breaks up. Yeah.
yeah. Whereas you'll get like a lot of like storm systems coming over the North Sea that'll come
It's just
yeah.
straight through that valley.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's
Fascinating stuff.
The computer died, but
I think it sounds I don't know, I'm trying to think of what the word is. It sounds almost nostalgic today when people talk about geography or places or
Yeah.
there was a time when people were much more concerned about geography and actually you can actually read if you read newspapers from like the late 19th century, they will refer to places that are like extremely remote,
As if people should know where they are.
right?
Yeah.
And
They'll use city names within countries that we barely can find the country on a map today.
exactly.
And they'll be like, oh yeah, in this city. And we're like,
Yeah, but I think that providentially, God used that specific just kind of milieu of like education and the global interest that people had in the United States and the UK and a few other places in the late 19th century as a precursor for global evangelistic and mission effort.
In many ways, it's definitely like there's definitely people who have been less inclined to appreciate the globalization of the world, but they've missed
With a variety, right?
the gospel.
Yeah, the
Right.
variety and the diversity of
Yeah.
and the scope.
Mhm.
well, the
And
promise from the Father to the Son is that you will inherit all the nations. Like Revelation 5, you will inherit all the nations in a redeemed sense. So, of course, the development of those nations is necessary for us to go there
Yeah.
to save those that belong to Him.
It's like this new whole thing in Iran currently led me to looking up stats on churches and Christianity in Iran. And because it's so poorly tracked for obvious reasons, the estimates vary from like 175,000 Christians to over 1.5 million, which I'm like, that is a huge margin of guess. And it's probably more of the over a million in all likelihood, it would appear, from what the Christians in the area, like the growth they describe in the church over there. It's really cool. to see how the evangelism can happen in that. There's actually an Iranian missions organization headquartered here in the Springs. That is like, with this whole thing going on, they're like, we could use 1 million Bibles and we'd have places to put them right now. I'm like, that would be awesome to see happen. Like, that would be incredible.
Is it translated in the Iranian language?
Farsi. Let's pray. Father, we thank you that you have given this precious charge to your church, and the joy that we have of making the joy of Jesus known to every nation. And I want to pray, Father, first for our own hearts, for revival, repentance, and for zeal to see the good news go forth. As your word says, how blessed are the feet of him who brings glad tidings of good news. I pray, Father, for our children. We're all fathers in this room, and we pray for our own hearts, that our own children would see, that they would find in us a passion and a zeal to see the gospel go forth and to find its perfect work in people's hearts that have been prepared by the Holy Spirit. And Father, I pray that you would wrest us away from all the distractions, all the devices, all the platforms that compete for our time and our attention in ages gone by, when people would spend their quiet moments studying the world and setting their hearts and their minds on distant places to bring Jesus. I pray, Father, that you would give us that kind of zeal. And I pray, Father, right now that you would use these circumstances, what's happening in the world right now, to allow your gospel to go forth. And through all the chaos, that the clarity and the truth of Jesus crucified, Christ upon the cross, that gospel would not go hindered, but it would have its free course, and that many would find, even in the midst of all this change, a desire and a passion and a zeal to follow Jesus as their Savior. Amen. Okay. Desire and a passion and a zeal to follow. That's a very odd sort of echo.
Instant replay.
I think one of you guys has your microphone on, and it's just turn your microphone off if you have it on right now. I think it's just kind of yeah. One of you definitely has the microphone on. Yeah, somebody.
My computer is so slow that I can't even turn off the mic yet because it hasn't even fully loaded.
And it happens.
It's so overloaded right
Okay.
now. Reset.
Well, let's jump in here. One of you definitely has the microphone on.
Keep going.
Yeah, somebody.
My computer is so slow that I can't even turn off the mic yet.
Okay,
It's
I'm gonna actually,
It's so overloaded right now.
I can turn mine off.
Let's jump
What's
in
gonna
here.
happen is then
Mine's off.
it is off now.
Okay.
You sure yours is off, right?
Mine's off.
Mine's off.
This is the strangest thing.
Now it's off.
Now it's off. Okay.
Yeah. That's
All right. Okay.
Okay,
good.
now we're-
Yeah, and I wouldn't really care, but I know Praise is gonna be listening to this too. So all right. All right. So adjectives, as in English, describe something that's characteristic of an entity, something that exists. It helps define existence. I mean, sort of ontologically, right? Philosophically, when you think about adjectives, they shape the definition of what we know to be true. The simple way of saying that is it describes a quality or a characteristic of something. In Greek, what we can say about adjectives is that they agree in gender, case, and number. Always good to go right into an example. So let's start with what we know first of all. What are we dealing with right here? The Greek article, right? What type of Greek article? Masculine, feminine, or neuter?
What he said.
Masculine, nominative, singular.
What he said.
All right. And then right here we have anthropos. Anthropos. So we know that anthropos is man, mankind, in some instances, probably person even. Anthropos. And we know that this is nominative, singular, right? Sound good so far, Tommy?
Yeah, I'm just confused about so the base form, the stem of anthropos, doesn't have the T, does it?
The theta?
Theta, yeah, the lexical base root, the lexical form.
It does.
Oh, okay.
This is the lexical.
Anthropos. You would see it. Yes, that's right. You would see the lexical form looking exactly like this.
Okay.
All right. So agatos, anthropos. So this is the noun agatos, which I believe has been in your vocabulary. It's good, noble. Agatos. Agatos is it. And what's to note here is the ending gives away that it is masculine singular. And as we'll see in a moment, that it's attributive because it matches the nominative singular, right? Here, nominative singular of the noun anthropos. All right. So the good man. The good man. Now, this is the simple one because it lines up exactly with the word order in English. Let's deal with another simple example here.
Oh, and the sigma just turned it into good.
This is how you know that agatos is masculine nominative singular. Okay, is that you're looking at the ending here, and it turns out it's exactly the same as what you've already learned for this class of noun, which I believe is a first class noun. I mean, the number, that doesn't really matter, but you've already learned this particular paradigm. And you know that when you see this ending, right, on the noun that you're dealing with, a nominative masculine singular, now you're coming over here and you also see an omega, sigma. All right, so you know that this noun matches with it.
So the first word is, all right, so it's the good man.
Yes.
You know the spelling like almost identical.
Yeah, agatas is a different word than
Got it.
anthropos. They're two separate words.
Oh, you were thinking they're the same?
Did you put a word
Okay.
into like two letters?
No.
It's not morphing. into
No.
something.
So anthropos, which is man, mankind, agatos, which is noble or good, right?
Good.
And here is a feminine example of the same adjective, but with a different noun. Let's start with the noun first, right? Remember, hey and tole. We can say that together, hey and tole, which is the command or the commandment, right? That was one of your vocabulary items, I think, even from the first quarter. Now, notice what's happened here. So you have the noun stem, but now instead of the omega sigma, you have an eta with the grav accent here. And that signifies that you're also dealing with the same gender, case, and number of the noun to which this adjective refers. Okay, and in this case, it happens to be a feminine nominative. Okay, feminine nominative singular of entole. All right.
So you can tell it's an adjective based on the fact that the case endings are the same.
Yes.
Usually it's pretty easy to identify.
Yeah, that's not the hard part. But we'll get, there's a little nuance to it we'll get into in just a little bit. But let's walk through the second declension adjectives, and that's actually going to be very simple for you because you've already seen these endings, right? So nominative singular agatos. Agatos. And the genitive singular, agatu.
Agatu.
So we're dealing with masculine adjectives. This is the genitive singular, agatu, and then the dative singular, agato. And we're looking at the accusative masculine singular, agaton. Okay, so nominative plural, agatoi. Okay, nominative masculine plural, genitive masculine plural, agaton. Dative masculine plural, agatois. So accusative masculine plural, agatus. There we go. Yeah. And then the first declension, which again is correspondent to the first declension noun. So agate, agates, agate, agatain. All right. So then nominative feminine plural, agatai. Genitive feminine plural, agaton. Dative feminine plural, agatais. Dative accusative, there's no such thing. Accusative feminine plural, agatas. Okay. And I think it's time for me to start bringing some coffee in. Once I get to like 7 o'clock plus, it's starting to hit me. No monster though. All right. Then we have the alpha pattern feminine nouns. So remember the alpha pattern. So it happens if the stem of the adjective ends with an epsilon, iota, or a rho, the adjective will follow this alpha pattern. Okay. So hopefully you can see that. I can see there's a little, just to clarify what we're dealing with here. So not a big difference, but it is notable. So again, remember, let's start with the noun that we already know. What does hey and tole mean? The command. Or the commandment. Hey and tole. Okay. Now, hagia happens to mean holy. We know that from your vocabulary. So we have hey hagia and tole. And you can see that this is an alpha dominated, alpha form, alpha pattern feminine noun. And the reason for that is that the adjective, the stem of it ends in a iota. See that? Okay, so epsilon, iota, or rho, then you're going to follow the alpha pattern. So we have not hagie and tole, we have hagia and tole. All right? And then the other singular forms, just to round it out. So hagia, hagias, hagia. Notice again, your friend here with the dative is going to be the iota subscript. So hagion, here you're going to see the accusative form here with the alpha nu. All right. Did I skip anything? I feel like I did. Yeah. Okay. And then there's second declension additives. Remember, second declension can be typically masculine or neuter. There are some feminine ones. But in the nominative neuter singular, we have agaton. Agaton. In the genitive singular, we have agatu. Dative neuter singular, agato. Accusative neuter singular, agaton. Nominative neuter plural, agata.
What does this word mean again?
Noble or good. You're going to see this a lot. We're going to get to the different forms here, but we'll talk about Substantive, and like this particular form, the nominative plural you find very frequently. All right, genitive, neuter, plural, agaton, agaton. Dative, neuter, plural, agatois. Accusative, neuter, plural, agata. And if you remember from your second declension, neuter nouns, that they also corresponded, there was correspondence between the nominative plural and the accusative plural. Same thing here, right? Alpha, alpha. All right, and then there's some variations. When you look at just megas and polus, there's a few others that have this sort of variation, but these are the two of the most frequent, if not the two most frequent. Megas, remember, means great. The English word megalopolis. So we have the nominative masculine singular, megas. Genitive masculine singular, right? Okay. Megalu. Okay. So you can see that it's actually, there's a stem variant here. And then dative, masculine singular, megalo. Accusative, masculine singular, megon. All right.
Like Megatron.
Like that. Yeah. Mega. Mega city sometimes. Megaton. All right.
No, it's showing masculine and feminine, right?
Yeah, so it could be
Masculine and feminine
it could be feminine too. Yeah.
in this particular case.
Yeah. So masculine or feminine, you're going to see the same declension. And so masculine or feminine, nominative, plural. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So this is actually, so we're just at this point, we're just looking at the singulars right now for these two. The point here is I just want you to see that there's occasionally a stem change, and don't try to, you just need to be able to recognize it again, not memorize it. But for Palouse, we have in the nominative, again, yes, whether it's masculine or feminine, it ends with the upsilon sigma. But in the genitive, masculine singular, we have Palou. Tommy? Genitive, masculine singular of Palouse is Palou. Dative, masculine singular, Palo. Okay, and then the accusative, masculine singular, Poloon. Okay. All right. Yeah, and then the rest of them are the same, so you don't see the stem change in the plural. All right. Now the three uses of the adjective. So the simplest one, the attributive. So you have a gospel. Which gospel? Another gospel. The substantive. Now this is the one that sometimes throws people off, like this one and the one use of the adjective that we'll see here in just a second. But sometimes you'll see something like this. That, for instance, in English, we would say, God will raise the dead. Right? Dead is technically an adjective, but if it has a substantival usage, it's used like a noun, right? And then there is what we would call predicative usage, where you're making an assertion about the noun, the subject, right? And it has a complement. It forms a complement to it. So she is good, right? In English, you always have this little copulative, but not always in Greek.
Good.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll see that here in a second. Let's look at some real examples. So again, the attributive position, well, let's see. It says it's in attributive position when it occurs directly in front of the adjective. Yes, but that's a little bit, it's, okay, and this needs to be rethought just a little bit. Here it says, it is in the attributive position, which means that the article, when present, occurs directly in front of the adjective. That's true, okay? But the important thing is that it occurs in two different orders. So one is article, right? The nominative singular, right?
Mhm.
Nominative masculine singular, agatos, which remember, good, noble, right? Nominative masculine singular, right? Agatos, hologos, okay? This is one way that you can see it, and you may or may not see this second article here. This is what throws people because you have two articles here, right?
Mhm.
Now in English, we don't say the good, the word. Do you say that, Tommy?
No, why is the second one in reverse?
Yeah, so, well, but let's just,
Can.
yeah, because that's what can happen, but in this case, what we're saying is that you can actually see that, or sometimes you don't see it. So it could be agatos, ho agatos logos, the good word, or sometimes you'll see ha agatos ho logos.
So it could be written either way.
If you think about it, there's actually three different ways it can be written here, right? It could be ha agatos logos, ha agatos ho logos, or ho logos ho agatos.
That doesn't help.
But you won't see hologos agatos, right? That's what it's pointing out, is that it will never,
Actually, no, that is what we're saying is that you will see.
that you will see the
Yeah.
noun first and then.
Oh, no, you're right.
Okay.
You're, yes, the second example,
The second
logos,
example, you won't-
agatos, yes.
that
You won't see the
article will
noun
drop
and then
out.
the adjective. But in Greek, unlike in English, in most cases, in Greek, you could find the adjective after the noun. Now, I'm going to tell you an example where that actually happens in English too. Doesn't usually happen in English, right? If I want to say this, you describe the sky as being blue, I would say the blue sky, right?
Mhm.
With me. Blue is the adjective, sky is the noun, could be the
I feel like
subject.
It used to be more common to put adjectives after in older English script.
That is it could be more archaic, or you could think of it as more of a poetic, or literary form.
Maybe.
But in typical English, at least beginning with modern English, we have the English being strongly typed or marked for adjective, noun. Adjective, noun, blue sky, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's some examples where that's not the case. So we could say, the sky is blue, the grass
It's
green, or
green
the grass green,
Oh.
the earth brown, right? The sea blue.
Highly unusual.
Highly unusual, but it's not ungrammatical, is it?
Yeah.
Right?
It technically works because you had it once. So the
Yeah.
assumption is it's there, even though you don't say it.
The only time I heard it recently would be like scorched earth. In reference to what's going on in the Middle East.
A lot of times you'll see it in titles. So your example is normal for English. That's typical. But check out, for instance, like a YouTube video title or an essay title. In common speech, we typically wouldn't say the earth scorched, but you might see it. You might see an essay titled that way, right? The new world discovered, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are
Making a
contexts.
point
There
like that, it tends to go that way.
there are contexts.
And it's almost for the sake of making you pause as much as anything, which is why it's in titles. Because it's like, oh, that catches my attention more if you say the earth scorched rather
Yeah.
than the scorched earth.
Yeah, and if you think about it, and this isn't something I've studied or would make like a definitive assertion about it, but there's a perfective nuance to it, I believe, right? There's a sense of within the narrative frame. So if I just say the earth scorched, like what did you see? Well, actually, you could get away with that. Like hey, you just visited a war zone. What did you see? Scorched earth, or hey, you just went to a war zone. What did you see? The earth scorched.
It
Right.
almost depends on the context in which you were speaking. So, right,
Mhm.
if somebody just came off a plane and you asked them, they're probably going to say the scorched earth. Where if they're behind a podium giving a speech, it's more likely
But that one is even more colloquial, right?
the earth scorched.
Yeah, I mean, it's intensive.
Wouldn't you say like
You know.
the earth is scorched in that example?
Okay.
Good.
You can, but see now that's going from attributive use would be the blue sky, or the sky's blue, the earth green. That's attributive, right? The earth brown, that's attributive. Once you add the copula, the word is now becomes a predicate, right? Noun and complement, right? Subject and complement. Okay, so the book is good. They're obviously we're very similar meaning, but
Right.
just different ways of expressing it within the context of the grammar, right?
It's like if you're reading a book and somebody says they walked into a room and they saw the ceiling white, the walls blue, this floor brown. You would almost see it more in cases like that. I feel like, but maybe that's just literary rather than.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, I wouldn't, I'm
I'm
not going to make any definitive, but I think there is a sense of, I think there's a sense of aspect to it in its English usage too, because, like imagine another example, someone who, just went to go visit a restaurant and they're a consultant for that restaurant and they have high standards, right? Their boss comes back, what did you see? Saw the stove's clean, the floor's mopped. I saw all of the kitchen gear put away, right? Now that sounds much more idiomatic, right? So I think there's a sense of there's a little bit of a sense of definitiveness to it, of
Definitely has some context required.
Yeah.
To determine how it's played.
yeah, when you're looking at, it has a bit of a perfective sense, I think, in it. But that's just I'm not gonna, don't pin me down on that. I'm just
Seems to.
yeah. Anyways, we're not here to talk about English usage. It does help to put some of these things in the context. Now, when you look at this in Greek, you'll see the same thing. It's just more frequent. So agatos hologos, the good word, hologos o agatos, the word, the good one, right? All right. Let's continue. Now, this is the one that often throws people. I know through me in my reading of beginning Greek. It's very important because it happens frequently in the Greek New Testament texts, any Greek Koine or classical text. This is the substantive use of the adjective. And this is when an adjective modifies a noun, but the noun itself is not explicit. It's not expressed. So again, let's start with the English example, which we already just looked at. the dead will be raised. Are you dead? No, but I think you'll agree that dead is an adjective. All right, the dead will be raised, right? That's a substantive use of the adjective in English, right?
Seems like it. For sure.
Yeah. Think of some other examples, right? Let's see. The triumphant pass under the arch in victory. Triumphant is an adjective. That's probably the most random example you could think of, but it's what came to my mind, right? Is the word triumphant an adjective? It is. So triumph, noun, triumphant, adjective, right?
Context.
Triumphantly, adverb, right? So the triumphant will pass through the arch, which is actually what happened in Rome after a victorious military campaign.
That was exactly where my mind went.
Mhm.
Second Corinthians 2.
That's right. Yeah.
There's also the Triumph Arch in France, in Paris.
Triumphal arch. Yeah. So you could also say,
Paris.
yeah, it's another form, adjectival form of the word triumph. Okay. So this is an unexpressed noun, and you find this frequently in Greek. And this is where people oftentimes run into issues because it looks like the other form. And then you're wondering, wait a minute, where is the noun? So if I say ha-agatos, right? You're saying the good what? But when it's just by itself, the context will tell you it means the good man, right? Now, what does it mean if I see the feminine form, heagate? What do you think that means, Tommy? Not the good man, but the good woman, right?
Oh, I was like, wait, if that's not me.
Yes.
Adverbs or adjectives are highly moldable to your situation.
Yes. And so now this is the form you'll find frequently. And I was alluding to this earlier. So this is the neuter plural. The neuter plural, ta agata. Ta agata. Remember, the neuter plural is the same in the accusative as it is in the nominative. Ta agata. Listen, the good things, right? Or things that are good. And you'll find this very frequently. Ta pneumata, the things of the spirit, right? Ta pragma, or ta, okay, ta pragmatica, the subjects under discussion, so you find this sort of expression where you take something that you haven't learned that word. I did use it as an example one time. I use it as an example in its noun form, not in its adjectival form, like I just did. But you'll often see this where you'll see something as an adjective now used in the neuter plural in a substantival way. Okay. The good things, right? As this is a generic, it's not something that's referring necessarily to one specific class or subclass, but the generic class, right? The good, or how about this? We already talked about it. We use the example in English. Ta nekra. And it's time to write this down. Whoa, I'm gonna lose the chair.
How would I know if an
So-
alpha?
I'm out of ta nekra, the dead. Okay.
There's no markers.
I'm out of markers.
Probably in the cabinet behind you.
Probably over here somewhere, right?
Is it locked?
Forget it. Okay. But again, neuter plural, the good things.
But go back. How would you know if the ending is an alpha? That translates to the word things. How do you make that leap?
Because you're not going to find a noun attached to it. So good question. So let's go back a little bit. Remember up here, we said that when we have an attributive adjective, we have an expression where we either have the adjective and then the noun, maybe with the duplicate article, as we do here in the parentheses, the brackets, or we have the noun, we have article, noun, article, adjective, right? Now, the key thing here is you have what two major parts of speech? Noun, article, noun, right? Okay. Agatos, logos, ho agatos, logos, or ha agatos, ho logos, the good word, or halogos, ho agatos, the good word, the good one, right? If you see an adjective like this with no nexus to a noun, right? Whether it's preceding it or whether it follows after it, and you just see this, now you're dealing with not an attributive, but a substantival adjective, right? The good person, the good man, the good woman, the good things. So that's how you know.
And often one of the easiest identifiers is to know how to translate it is going to be the article, because it makes it super easy to tell, is it masculine or feminine? Is it neuter? Is it singular or plural? And you can quickly say, oh, it's he, because it's ha.
Oh yeah, in order to know how specifically to translate it.
Translate.
Yeah.
If you want to add he,
Yeah.
she, they,
Right.
it,
Yeah.
those, you're going to know from the article.
That's a good point, because ho agatos, potentially could be referring to something that is non-personal, right? It could, you could talk about something that doesn't refer to a person, ho oikos, like the house, right?
Right.
So if you said you could say ha kalos, which means the beautiful or the good, right? So if you had talked about a house earlier and then you said ha ho kalos, I'm coming up with just a random example. I really wish I had that right now, that marker, but ho kalos pipte. Pipto means fall, right? Ho kalos pipte, epsilon iota at the end. If you were to actually read this, if third person masculine singular, the good one falls. How do you know what it is? We're talking about a house. Like I've been talking to you about a house. I went to go see a house. Some of the houses have great foundations. Some of the houses have sand foundations. Ho kalos pipte, right? Maybe it was a beautiful house, but it falls down, right? So yes, so good point there. Actually, you just brought that up, or alluded to it, that you can have potentially something that was non-personal, and there could be translated to it, not just man. It could also be, I suppose it's worth saying, let's say that we're talking about a young man, neaniskas in Greek, okay? Neaniskas. And you talked about him for a while. He goes to this school, or he comes from this neighborhood. There's two of them, actually. There's a really good one, and there's a really bad one, right? And then you could just say ho kalos, and the good one, and that's it. You're talking about, say ha kalos ho neaniskas. It's just kalos, the good what? Oh, the good boy, because that's what we've been talking about, right?
You don't have to put in the name, or even
That's right.
In that case, the pronoun. You
Correct.
Just use
the adjective in a substantive form, as like a noun. Okay. All right, good. And then the predicate, and again, this is all all formal, and once you start reading, that's of course how you get an exposure to this and gain experience in translating it. So the adjective, when it asserts something, about the subject, that puts it into a predicate position. So sometimes it's called the complement as well as a predicate. And then there's no article in front of the adjective. That's what you have to look for here. So now this one's a little tricky, but let's just deal with this one. Let's just deal with this example here first. Actually, I think this is the easier one to start with right here, where we have the adjective, right? Agatos, which means good or noble.
Yeah.
Okay. Logos, which
The
means
word.
word. Okay. Agatos, hologos. What is that?
Good, the word.
Not quite. So it is the word is good. Okay. So in Greek, you don't need the copula is. But if you see adjective, article,
Good is the word.
noun, it is the word is good. Or you could say good is the word, but of course that's not as colloquial. All right. This is I think where people get thrown the most. And it's better to start with the second example here, because if you see this example, for sure you have a predicate, okay, which means this here is the subject and this is its complement or predicate right here, right? So this is a noun, logos, right? This is an adjective. The adjective here is a complement to it. And so the word is good. The word is good. All right. Now, this is the trickiest example because the one above it right here, you will also see hologos agatos. And normally when you read that, it should be the word is good. But occasionally, this could also mean the good word. And now the context is what will help you, right? Because if it's just this, okay, beginning, end, full stop, then for sure you're dealing with a predicate. Noun, subject, predicate. The word is good. Okay. If you see
If it's a phrase rather than a
lale, and this is where I really, for this particular lesson, having that the board, not chalkboard, but the marker board would actually been really helpful. Eureka, hologos agatos. He spoke the good word. Okay. Now, if there's a finite verb, okay, if there's a verb that comes after this, that's a dead giveaway that it's the good word. Okay. It is an attributive adjective because now there's another verb that comes. If it just stops like this, hologos agatos, stop or pause, predicate. Okay. You're going to need to get experience with this, and there's lessons in the text for this. Agatos hologos. If you see that, then for sure you're dealing with a predicate.
The context is definitely key on that.
Context is key, but sometimes you have to ask the next question, which is what about the context, right? Yeah. It's probably worth it. In fact, actually, just write this up there. Let's see how we're doing for time. Not too bad. Okay. So here's what we have. Oops. The logos agatos. Okay. If there's a period after this, okay. If there's a question, which you remember in Greek, actually in minuscule script is a semicolon. If there's a comma, right, it's a discrete unit by itself, right? If it's just this, then what we have here is the subject, its complement or predicate, right? And it must be translated in just about every instance as the word is good, okay? You see
I
that?
don't know if the thing is focusing on the board, just.
Probably not, but I can't see it, so
Yeah.
Hmm.
For some reason, it refuses, but yeah.
Okay.
makes sense.
all right. So this is, again, what's known as a copulative. And in English, this is required. In Greek, it is not. Okay. But when again, we see subject and adjective here that is a discrete unit like this, there's no other finite verb that comes after it, then this is the predicate, and it is to be translated like this. The word is good. Okay. Now, if you were to see this, right? The logos agatos. Let's try to think. Gee, that's terrible handwriting. Okay. O logos agatos lege pros humos. In this case, now we have here a finite verb, right? And you'll remember that this is the verb stem and that the lexical form is Lego, right? And this is the third person singular ending, right? So we have he speaks or she speaks or it speaks. All right. And then the preposition toward or to or toward. And then the object of the preposition humas, right? And in fact, this would be an unusual expression. It might not even be fully idiomatic. It usually is just this, right? So logos agatos lege humas. He speaks the good word to you, plural.
To y'all.
All right.
Yeah.
So the trick is if you find this a finite verb, and you'll see when you get, let's just start with the simple case right here where the subject phrase occurs first, right? The verb occurs after it, as in English typically. And then in this case, we have like indirect objects, right? Okay. If you find that finite verb, then that's going to condition your thinking now, because now it's going to tell you it's the good word he spoke to us, right? Oh, did you see the mistake I made? I was kind of making this up as I went along, but it should be tone, right? And it should be logon. I gotta tell you, I'm just trying to make sure that you're awake, but I wasn't awake either. Okay, why is that? Because this is actually not the subject, but it's actually the object, right?
Yeah, once you add the verb, it becomes.
That's the indirect object. That's the object. And then the subject is actually implied.
It's understood in the verb.
Which is he, but it's not there, right? Yeah. So lege logon agoton mas or prosumas. Yeah. So the key thing you get to look for is this finite verb. Okay. Now, again, one more time, everybody up here. Tommy, if you see just this, full stop, how are you going to translate that?
The good word
The word
is
good.
good.
Yeah, there you go. As opposed to over here, like, so this is, you were to bracket it, it would be like this, just by itself. But if it's like this, all of this, right? Now it is, he speaks a good word
Which is something I might find often in the Gospels.
to us. Yeah, that's right. See that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then you have a couple little funny ones. So these are adjectives that they're a little irregular. Let me just throw them in there, So I think we've already seen one or two already, right? Yes, we did. Polus, many, right? And then pas means all. So P, alpha, circumflex, sigma, all. So that's the nominative singular. In the genitive, you have this different stem here. So pantos.
Toast. Sounds like a totally different word.
Right. So that you got to look for that change here in the stem and the addition of the noon and the tau. And you can look at you can find the discussion in Merkel, but it turns out that I think you have the noon is actually part of this, but then it drops out with with the sigma in there. So okay, so panti, the dative, panta. So notice that the genitive, the dative, and the accusative all change here. And it's the same thing or similar sort of in the plural, except that now you find pantes, panton, pasi, and pantas. Okay, now this one's unusual because remember, up until now, I think almost everything you've seen that's a genitive plural, you've seen a circumflex over the last omega. But here now you see that the accent has shifted over to the first syllable here, and you have panton. Okay, yeah. So again, just need to be able to recognize these forms. Okay, so nominative plural pantes, genitive plural panton, dative plural pasi, and the accusative plural pantas. Mm-hmm. All right.
That's just masculine.
Oh yeah, so it does actually here say I have a note. The masculine nominative singular, the noon, and the tau drops out. So that's why you have over here pas instead of you can't have noon, tau, sigma, the three consonants like that. No. In English, you can have that consonant cluster, but you can't have that in Greek. Okay, and then pasa. So this will just be the feminine form. So nominative singular pasa, genitive singular passes, dative singular passe, accusative singular passan, nominative plural pasai, genitive plural passon, dative plural passais, and accusative plural passas. Yeah.
What is the root word meaning?
All.
All.
Mm-hmm.
These are
Or-
all ways to say all.
Or every
Or each.
would be another one. Yes,
Each,
that's right.
every, or
Mhm.
whole.
So pas ho anthropos, every man. Okay. And then just the neuter form here of this one. And this is a very frequent one I'm going to show you in just a moment. One of these forms you're going to find a lot in the New Testament. But first, starting with the nominative singular, pan,
Pan,
genitive singular, pantos,
pantos,
dative neuter singular, panti,
panti,
accusative neuter singular, pan.
pan,
Okay, now the nominative plural, panta.
panta,
Okay, so this nominative neuter plural, tapanta, everything. Okay, and so that you'll find that frequently as a frequent expression in Greek, tapanta, everything, because it means everything. Okay. Panton. So genitive plural, panton, dative plural, pasi, and then accusative plural, panta. Oh my goodness, I'm running out of juice here. Let's see how much I have left. 6%. We better hurry up. Okay. So the tau drops out again, as in some of the other forms here we saw for the feminine and for the masculine. So in the predicate position, it means all. Pantes hoi anthropoi. Okay, so this would be all or every. In this case, it's plural, so it'd be all, right? All the men. Passa he polis, all the city. Panta soma, all the body. Right. Because remember, soma is neuter, pan. Okay. The attributive position, it would have the sense of being the whole or the entirety. So hapos anthropos, the entire body, the whole man. Or the whole man in this case, not body. He passa polis, the whole city. And tapan soma, the whole body. Okay. So the difference in the meaning there is based on its position in the attributive position there, and then in the predicate position means all. Okay. And then no article every. So pas anthropos, every man. Mm-hmm. And then passa polis, every city. Mm-hmm. Or pan soma, everybody. Yeah. Now, when it's used, as I was saying, this is very frequent. You'll often see tapanta, the nominative neuter plural, hoi pantes, all or all men, just depending on what the referent is. Hypasai, all women. So if there's no noun, then that's the substantive use and it has the sense of all. Okay. Tapanta, all things. And again, this is very frequent. You'll find this particular expression, right? Until he has put all things under his feet. So in Hebrews, tapanta hupapodion. All right. The comparative degree, I might need to plug in here because I don't want to lose this and have to start. Oh yeah, I think I'm going to have to. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Do that.
We're good. I'll switch you.
Oh, yeah. That'd be better, huh?
Yeah.
And I'll kind of shift over here a little. Okay. Back in business. Okay. So we were familiar with degrees in English: small, smaller, smallest, positive, comparative, superlative, young, younger, youngest, good, better, best. Good, better, best. This is a good example because see that it's not always just adding an ER for the comparative. It's not always just adding an EST for the superlative, but there are some irregular forms. So it's not good, gooder, goodest. It's good, better, best. With me so far? Okay. Now, there's two ways of forming the comparative, and the one way with the adjective, if you want to say greater, is to say maison. This is in irregular form right here. There's another way that you'll see that the comparative is formed from adjectives. It's here what you actually have is essentially a stem change, right? So you have mega or megas, great, and then you have maison, greater, and you have plus or polus, and then you have pleon, more, right? So polus, much, pleon, more. So don't blame the Greeks. You also have irregular forms too. Good, better, best, right?
Right.
All right. And I should note that even if you just know these two, you're going to pick up most of the comparatives in the New Testament, about half of them. Because meson, greater, and pleon are very frequent. There's two other forms, heron, that's also very frequent. It means worse, from kakos. Remember, kakos means bad or evil. Heron, worse, and then kreson or kreton. So these are two alternate forms that mean better. So kalos or agatos, good. Kreson or kreton, right? Better. So read a little Greek, that's agatos. Read a lot of Greek, that's what? Kreson. Say it, Tommy. It's kreson.
Right, so
Yeah, it's kreton. Yeah, it's good. Learn some English.
Goodest.
All right. So the comparative degree in the nominative singular again. I'm just going to read this. You just listen at this point. Meson, mesonos, mesoni, mesona, mesones, mesonon, mesosin, mesonas. So what are you going to look for here? Is just a mu, epsilon, iota, zeta. Now you know you're dealing with the comparative of megas. Great. Greater. All right. And it does follow this third declension pattern, right? So you've seen, similar sorts of endings with third declension nouns already. So again, you're not memorizing each one of these. You're just, as you read, you will recognize them. Okay. Two ways of formatting the comparative. So the other second way is with a series of positive, comparative, and superlative degrees. So we have iskouros, that's the positive. Iskourototoros, yes, iskourototoros, stronger. And then, okay, so let's just talk about still the comparative here. I'll jump into the superlative in a second. And then mikros and mikroteros. Okay, so that would be small, smaller. Iskouros, strong. Iskourotoros, stronger. Okay. Presbus, old. Presbuteros, older. Sophos, sophoteros, wiser. All right. So another way you can make the comparative in Greek is by using this comparative operator, which is the term a. So that would be an eta with a smooth breathing mark and a strong accent over it. So meson, which by now you means greater, right? All right. Meson estin, third person singular of ame, which means he is, right? So he is greater, okay, or in this case, greater, ho en humin, the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world, ho en to, cosmo.
forgive me, I'm out of it at this point.
Yeah, that's actually a tough example too. The one in you is greater than the one in the world. But here's what I just want you to see for tonight. A, that's the comparative operator. Okay.
We go Canadian. A.
Yeah, if that helps you. All right. Occasionally you'll see the genitive use. So hapater meson mu estin, the father is greater than me. Notice you have here this personal pronoun in the genitive, and that is a comparator, right? It compares you to the one who is the subject, and here it is, the father is greater than me. The father is greater than me. Okay. Or to be technically correct with the grammar, the father is greater than I. And then the superlative degree, and you're almost done with 2/4 of Greek. It's your very last concept. The istos ending. So we saw meson and then megistos, which is greatest. So megas, meson, megistos. Great, greater, greatest. Polus, pleistos. Polus, pleon, pleistos. So that's most. And then mikros, we saw mikroteros, and now we see, sorry, I had to throw in a regular one on you. Alachistos, the smallest. Okay. Hoopsos, hoopsistos. So no surprise there. And then another way with the superlative, this is just the superlative, meaning the, not great, greater, greatest, right? The comparison to the ultimate degree, hagios, hagiotatos. So tau, alpha, tau, omicron, or yeah. So timios and then timiotatos. Valuable, most valuable. Akribes, akribestatos, akribestasos, strictest, akribes. Akribes, I think, might have been in your vocabulary. It is, I think, in this week's, if it hasn't been already. Strict or precise. And then what you would call the elative, and I'll just mention this, that sometimes the better translation is not the largest crowd ever, but a very large crowd, right? So pleistos, for instance, and this is actually, looks like a superlative, but it's actually, the intention is to say a very large and exceedingly large, crowd, or some other referent. So it's not the superlative nuance, the largest crowd, but it's rather just large. Yeah, it's not compared to like that to something else. Sorry, I could cut that off somehow. Oops. And then I think that's it. Let's see. Oh, and then just very briefly with adverbs are simple.
Attached to verbs.
Well, they have the omega and the sigma. Okay. And so no, I really should have had a better example in here. Okay, look at the text, because I should have had an example ready for you, but a lot of times what you'll see is the adjective with omega sigma, adverb. You see omega sigma, adverb. But occasionally what you'll find is this adverbial accusative, where what you see here is an adjective that's used like an adverb. So here, pola, remember, polus meant many, pola means more, I mean, many, except in the, that would be like the nominative plural, right? Nominative plural, pola, the many.
My computer did that, by the way.
Yeah, it's okay. So the pola, in fact, I think this is the exact expression that Jesus uses in the Gospels. The love of the many will grow cold, right? But here in this, I think this is
Because it's attached to the verb at this point.
Aquila and Priscilla warmly greet you in the Lord.
Because it's attached to greeting.
First Corinthians, or is it
Uh,
Romans?
Yeah. I
Romans
think in-
15?
Well, in Romans 16. He
Romans
says,
16.
Greet Priscilla and.
Greet Priscilla. Thank you.
But in, is it Ephesians?
Maybe. Yeah.
It says that they greet them.
Yes.
It's written when he's with them, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't
Romans
either.
is written and they're in Rome.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway.
So accusative adjectives can function adverbially. That's important to note. So sometimes you'll see an adjective here that has this adverbial sense. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go over the vocabulary on your own, but here's the thing. We've now gone through 2 full quarters of Greek and have made tremendous progress. Okay. And you're already starting to be able to read through simple sentences in Greek. And I think, we've made, tremendous amount of progress. So we'll have 2 weeks, because we've been going at this now pretty hard, this every week, right? For you to review chapters 9 to 16, go through the exercises again, read the vocabulary, and do the practice exam.
Yeah.
Okay, do the practice exam as many times as you want to or need to. Okay. And then take the final. Okay. So I will ask you to take the final by 2 weeks from today. So let's see what the date is today, because I didn't have that.
Third.
Today is the 3rd. So that would be March 20th. March 20th. Okay. So I'll already put a note right into the Slack channel right now. You're correct. You're correct. Yes. Let's have it done by that Tuesday. Yes. So please have the final exam completed by Tuesday, March 17th. That's it.
Because they do 15 words per chapter. By this time, we've gone over 240 vocabulary.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Which, when you consider there's how many thousands of words in the New Testament, individual words?
Over 5,400.
Yeah, so, but these 240 occur more than half of those times is probably.
Yeah.
We're probably close to it.
I know that once you've memorized all the 300 or so from the first year, that accounts for the majority of the vocabulary of the New
Words used
Testament.
in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Maybe 5,000 unique words, but a lot of them only occur once.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, but I mean, everyone's doing really well with this. We've made a lot of progress. There's a lot of challenges with just meeting once a week like this and cramming things in, but be diligent now just to round out the quarter, and we're doing really well. And again, remember the prize, remember the goal is it's to read and to be able to exegete the word, and then better to know and to preach Christ. And you're getting there. And that's exciting because I can see it.
Stuff.
Yeah.